Welcome into Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered by IBEW Local 613 from the Breda Pest Management Sports Desk alongside Craig Sager. I'm Georgia Chambers. We have a lot of great things to get to in today's show, but we're going to start right off the bat with our fast break headlines. And we have some national rankings to get to. We've been talking a lot about preseason polls and all of that, but we have three teams within high school football that are ranked nationally, starting off with Buford at number 7. And when you look at their season so far, they're 2-0. They beat Milton 20-13 week 1. This is a huge game to start the season. And they'll play Roswell next week after being on a bye this week. This team is firing on all cylinders.
100%. I am so impressed with what we saw from them in this last game on the road at Benedictine. That's a 5-hour drive. There was like a 2-hour delay, and they really ran away with that game. I felt like they looked a lot more explosive than they did against Milton week 1. Benedictine's an outstanding team. It's a big result. That's why they've been able to jump up in the rankings. And what's interesting about Buford, they've been really solid these last few years in the highest classification. Buford has never won a state championship in the highest classification before. They've won it in every other classification, and they've come really close. But if you look at it, last year Carrollton was a great team. Juju left. Buford's going to get the benefit of the doubt in the rankings, slightly ahead of them. Grayson, really good. But, I mean, this year they have a really big opportunity, and I feel like they're just scratching the potential.
And then number 13th nationally is Grayson, also 2-0. They beat Collinsville, a team we saw last week in our game of the week, 51-3. And they're going to play Thompson on Friday at home, which will be a huge game. Thompson, number 1 in the state in Alabama, and they're also nationally ranked number 19. So this is going to be a huge matchup. And you talk about teams wanting to play big games to start off the season. Can't get much bigger than this.
Yeah, it's almost like Georgia's number 1 versus Alabama's number 1. So Thompson's number 1 in Alabama right now. Grayson, maybe they're slightly behind Buford, but I mean, basically it's like our number 1. So this is a real big test for them. This is a top 25 national matchup. They've already played a very tough schedule, had a great win last week against Raven Gap where they really had to claw and dig their way to victory in that one. And this will be a big test. Thompson doesn't play around.
And then another team just within the top 25, coming out at number 23, Carrollton. Again, 2-0, high-scoring offense, and they're going to play at Rome on Friday, which is a team that's still trying to find their bearings. But again, great way to start off the season, and has proved already to be very dominant.
Yeah, I really like Carrollton's defense this year, and this is a big test for them. In the region, they're going to have some tough matchups. They're going to have East Coweta, and then this Douglas County matchup is going to be tremendous moving forward in region play. But this is just another great test. Playing Rome at Barron Stadium this week. They used to be in the same region a few years back, so they're sort of familiar with each other, but this will be a big trip for sure.
Grayson and Carrollton both with high-scoring games. Talking about another team that has done really well on offense. Moving on to our fast break headline number 2. Noonan quarterback and wide receiver duo broke a record for the single-game passing and receiving yards. Quarterback Brody Campbell and wide receiver John Matthews broke records in Noonan's 60-56 victory over East Coweta. If you would look at this final score, I wouldn't think this was a football game.
Yeah, I mean, what a fun game to just sit there and witness. We had a feeling it was going to be high scoring. Look at that pass right there. This is a team that threw the ball 45 times. I mean, that's like some of those colleges that air it out, some of these pro teams that don't have a run game. I mean, I can't remember seeing high school teams throw the ball close to 50 times a game. Huge numbers, but this is just what makes this Noonan team very exciting. And I've been impressed with what I've seen from Noonan overall. They just won the baseball state championship this last year. They have a lot of two-sport athletes on this team, a lot of guys that not only have been playing football together for a long time, baseball also, I feel like that's bonded them together, and that's why they're hitting their stride early.
Taking a closer look at those numbers, quarterback Brody Campbell finished 27 of 45 for 516 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then wide receiver John Matthews with 9 receptions for 257 yards and a touchdown, and the two connected on an 80-yard score. Those are such impressive numbers. And when you talk about explosive plays changing the game, Certainly that 80-yard score is one of them, but that's the gift that keeps on giving, and it'll be interesting to see these two continue to progress through the season.
Yeah, and Noonan had a big result week 1 against GAC, put up a ton of points. So we'll talk about some of the highest scoring teams in the state, but I really think this is just what this team identity is going to be all year. They're going to air it out. They're going to throw the ball a ton all over the field, and you see the arm strength of Brody, but also the placement. He's got great timing with his receivers, and this is a very fun team for Coach Walker. Heading
in next, we're going to switch sports. Fast break headlines. Tri-Cities point guard Trey Keith receives an offer from Tennessee basketball. He's a 4-star point guard, according to 247sports.com, and he's nationally ranked 68th. In the state, he's ranked 10th. This is a huge offer for him and great point moving forward.
Yeah, what was so impressive about Tri-Cities last year, we had them on the show, I think, a couple times. They won the state title, and this was a team that would just, I mean, their coach really worked them hard. He was talking about just how the key to their success is because they practice harder than they even play. Last year, what they were able to do, win the state title in such a competitive classification, that helped put them on the map. He's the leader. He's the straw that stirs the drink is the saying. He makes that offense go. He's a great leader and a big-time performer, and obviously is skyrocketing in the recruiting ranks.
Excited to see him play here soon enough. I feel like we'll blink and basketball season will be here. Moving on to our fast break headlines. Taking a look now at our softball rankings, there's 6 teams within the Peach State that is ranked nationally, 6 within the top 10. And it's interesting, you take a look at that number 1. Football's ranked number 1, well, in the top 10 nationally. They're number 7. And then you look at Buford, they're number 1 overall nationally. Buford just a powerhouse for high school sports.
Yep, and over the last probably 7 or 8 years, Buford and East Coweta are the only 2 teams from the state of Georgia that have actually finished the year ranked number 1. Buford and East Coweta have both done it. Last year, that was the big rivalry. East Coweta was able to knock down Buford in the final game. Very exciting, close matchup, but seeing them 1 and 2, this is very intriguing, and surely they're going to cross paths. You look at some of the other teams, Veterans, Creekview, Glen Academy, Loganville, some different classifications are represented, but to me, it's that Buford, East Coweta. I really like that growing rivalry, and a team that I think could potentially make some noise in Class 6A is North Cobb, but we'll talk about that later when we get to the rankings this week.
How have you seen softball within the state of Georgia and just the powerhouses they've become grow? Because when you look at this list, having 6 schools in the top 10 nationally is impressive.
Yeah, I think the teams that have really been, I say, leading that national conversation, it's Buford and Wesleyan. The way those teams schedule, they aren't afraid to take on out-of-state opponents, and the consistency is just unbelievable. It's so hard to finish the season undefeated. They've been able to do it multiple times, and just a great hotbed for softball talent.
Sticking with women's sports, moving on with our fast break headlines, Pace Academy Volleyball. They're 4-0 for the 4th straight season. They've won 8 consecutive state championships from 2017 to 2024. And get this, Craig, none of the teams they've played so far have even won a match against them. So this shows how dominant they're starting off the season, and they don't plan to put on the brakes anytime soon.
Yeah, so Johns Creek is a top 10 team in Class 5A. They absolutely dominated this match. It was like 25-14, 25-17. And that was their first match of the season, where we've seen some other teams had already played a dozen, so they got a late start. That's the only reason I put Cartersville slightly ahead of them at number 1 for a few weeks. But looking at the dominance of these first 4 matches, they're going to have some big ones coming up also, but you can't get off to a better start than they have. Haven't dropped a set, and it looks like defensively, offensively, they have it rolling, and they look like they might be the best team in any of the classifications this year.
We've seen football teams, high school football teams, playing out-of-state matchups, and Pace Academy is going to do that this Friday, playing some Florida teams, some really good Florida teams. How do you feel like that will really test them early on this season?
Oh, tremendously. So when you play the different states, it's not so much that they're going to be playing a completely different game, but these are unfamiliar players. Sometimes these big Florida schools, they have a larger population. They're going to have more size than you up front. You're really going to have to adapt. And then what's good about these matches, which I think all 4 of those were a doubleheader and then a doubleheader, they're packing the schedule where they're going to be playing back-to-back games, and you have to adjust within the same day to the different opponents. So I feel like that helps them once they get to the tournament and have to cross paths with some teams they aren't used to. It just helps them play their own brand of volleyball, and should be a good test for them.
And with region play coming up shortly, where do you hope to see this Pace Academy team, even though they've started off on such a strong note?
I think it's what I said. They have an opportunity this year with Alpharetta, that super team last year with 5 D1 athletes. Pace Academy has a chance to be the best team in the state. If they continue this dominance, they have a chance to complete a perfect season. And these big Florida matches are something that is going to really put the spotlight on them as they play this national circuit.
Well, that wraps it up for our fast break headlines. Coming up, we still have a lot to get to in our show. We're going to have 2 head coaches for high school football joining us on the show today. We're going to go over some rankings. A lot to get to. Don't go anywhere just yet. We'll be back right after the break.
Nobody wants to hear the word roaches, because who wants to admit they have roaches?
I actually found some weird roaches. I didn't know what they were. I decided to choose Breda. I reached out to them. They check in routinely. They're explaining what they're doing, so there's a lot of clarity in the process as well. I think that just speaks to the level of safety that I feel with the organization.
The facts are, roaches are everywhere in our environment, so what are you doing to keep them out of your home?
Breda, Breda, no need to be afraid of bugs.
Great teams are committed, focused on the details, and work hard to be their best. From practice to games, right down to their gear. Your field is a critical part of the game that allows your athletes to showcase their athletic abilities. Sports Turf is committed to bringing your team innovative sports surfaces with unparalleled performance. You bring the vision. Our team brings it to life.
This makes my dad proud. He went through his whole career as an employee. Now I'm the employer, something he didn't achieve.
We are signatory to IBEW and do IBEW people wherever we go that we feel like they are faster and better than any of our competition.
The advantages of being a signatory contractor is you're trained employees. You have unlimited manpower. It allows me to bid on jobs that I ordinarily would not go after.
Man, you know how to do this? Man, I don't even know. I was flipping burgers last week.
Violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, impersonating a craftsman.
Skilled trade unions are well-trained career pros, not part-timers. Construction is a rewarding and lucrative career with the advancement potential, but you have to do it the right way with the right training. Learn how you can be a pro. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 613. Electrify your career. And by Breda Pest Management. They handle bugs and critters.
Welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Craig and I are excited to bring in a guest. We don't like it to just be us talking, right? We would love to catch up with high school football coaches from around the state, and now we're very welcomed to bring in Ben Reaves, Jr. of Milton High School. Coach, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. When you take a look back at the past 2 years, back-to-back championships, what stands out about this success?
Just the consistency of the program. You know, started back in 2017 when I came in with Coach Adam Clack, and he had a vision for the program, and we knew that it was going to take a little bit of time to build what we all wanted here. And over time of just investing into, you know, younger age teams, our 6th, 7th, 8th grade team, and our continuing to have a 9th grade team, and putting a lot of effort into JV teams, and, you know, making Milton a national brand. Just so much work has gone into where we're at today, and it's provided us the opportunities to continue to, be successful year in and year out, regardless of, what we have, who's graduating, who's coming back. So it's just a testament to what was built here and the consistency that still remains.
When you're coming off such a successful season, what's the most challenging part about entering this season coming off a state championship?
We've kind of built a mindset here at Milton that every team, wants to be the one that does it bigger and better. So last year's group of seniors, they had the opportunity to go back to back for the first time. And, now here we are, this group of seniors has the opportunity to try to three-peat for the first time. So every year, every senior class just kind of has that chip on their shoulder that they want to continue the success, continue the pride, and do it bigger and better and be known as the senior class that achieved something great, bigger than themselves for the school and for the community. So there really is no lack of motivation. There really are no lulls in this program because, everyone is just trying to elevate it to whatever that next level is.
And then Coach Reaves, I want to ask you about this. Last week, you guys took the trip down to Florida. Long way to travel for a game. Did you guys stop at Buc-ee's or anything? Were you guys able to have some fun on that trip?
The boys begged me to stop at Buc-ee's, so we definitely stopped at Buc-ee's. I was looking around, and some of the big O linemen didn't have. They had shopping carts. They had shopping carts of brisket and all kinds of things. So we had a really good time, not only at Buc-ee's, but just on the trip in general. It's something that we take pride in, an experience that we try to give to our kids. But there's also a football game that we got to zone into. We got to learn how to get on a bus, check into a hotel, and go through game day operations far away from home, because you never know, especially as you get deep into the Georgia playoffs, when you may have to travel outside of your radius, your comfort zone. So that trip is multifaceted, but thankfully we were able to incorporate a great Buc-ee's stop this year.
And was that a stop on the way back after the big win?
No, it was a stop on the way there. We actually drove back overnight after the game, so we wanted to limit those stops as best as we could. We got back Saturday morning around 8 a.m., so it was definitely a stop on the way there, and it was a lot more enjoyable because of that.
And then week one, you guys went toe-to-toe with Buford, 20-13 game. Overall, you guys had to be pretty pleased with the result, but was there any frustration from the team just knowing that you guys had a chance to pull out that victory? How did the team handle that?
It was a feeling of course, as a competitor, you're always going to be upset whenever you lose. The ultimate goal is to win, and losing is always going to hurt. But we knew going into that game what we were up against. We knew that we had 17 brand new starters. Starting, freshmen, sophomores, and facing a really, really tough opponent in Buford in a beautiful venue. And our goal was, of course, to win the game. But regardless of outcome, just go out and empty our tanks, like we like to say around here. And that team, they gave everything they had that night. It took a lot of people playing a lot of snaps, playing above and beyond some of their abilities at times to keep us in that game and to give us a chance to win at the end. And like I told the team after the game, 4 to 5 plays determine the outcome of this game. And that's the way that championship type caliber games go. And by the time that we get into November and into December, we need to mature as a team to be able to make those 4 to 5 game determining plays.
You've followed in your dad's footsteps when it comes to coaching. What's something that you've learned from him that's been so instrumental in your development so far?
Yeah, I think just that, people, and more specifically the players, are your greatest resource. Never lose sight of that. Always make sure that you're loving them up, treating them well, and they are investing in you and your program just like you're investing in them. So making sure that ultimately, there is football and games to be won, but you're not forgetting about the human side. You're not forgetting about the actual person, and you're able to learn them and love them beyond just a football player, but as a human being as well.
And then we want to give credit to JSM Productions for this footage we're showing right now. Coach Reaves, when I see Milton play, it looks like your players really want to go out there and put on a show. They want to represent the Milton brand. They want to go out there and be great. Just talk about how you've been able to establish that and get them to really take pride in having that M on their jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, we preach brotherhood, effort, toughness here, and there's so many things that we do just to build bonds. And we brought up the trip. That's a big bonding experience for us, and we've built a lot of pride with winning. And we've been able to bond through other adversities over the years, and even this season already. So, in a way, they've been forced to play hard, because if you play at Milton, you know that I'm going to schedule the toughest non-region games I possibly can. And I'm going to expect you to rise to that challenge. But other than that, this community, this school is just so tight knit in itself, and these guys, they grow up playing together. They grow up loving Milton football. Milton community loves them. And so there's just a mutual respect, a mutual love between the program, between the community, and also the school, that just gives us a lot of extra motivation to play that much harder and, do whatever we can for everybody within Milton.
When you have such tough matchups to open up this season, where do you hope to see your team, where do you hope to see the most growth within your team ahead of region play?
Like I alluded to earlier, just making the crucial plays in the game that really determine the outcome, getting the stops when we need the stops, and scoring the points when we need to score the points, making sure that we're not kicking field goals when we need to be putting the ball across the end zone, but making sure that, we are holding the other team to field goals and limiting turnovers, just playing smarter football, but more mature football, being wiser with some of our decisions, players, coaches alike, in key heated moments that can swing the outcome of the game. So it's a learning experience for all of us. As coaches, we have a lot of new players to kind of see what they can do, and they're proving some things to us now. And as players, there's just some experience to gain, and there's just some decision making and that type of thing that they have to learn. When's the right time to take a risk? When is the right time to play conservative? And just stuff that over the course of the season and the schedule that we play, they'll be ready to do and equipped to do by the time the playoffs hit.
When you talk about wanting to know when you take that risk or when to be conservative, how is that something that you're able to practice and get ready for in game instances?
Yeah, it's really tough to practice. It's really tough to simulate, but we'll do some best on best drills, and I'll try to simulate chaos and controversy and bad calls, and put one of the offense or defense into a bad situation and talk about how they can dig their way out of it, or maybe put them in a good situation and just talk about mindset. What we're thinking here, what our goals should be here, and just continual communication throughout the flow of a game. There's so much that you can just see and feel throughout the flow of the game. Momentum is something that you can't really practice or simulate, but it's something that you can feel on a Friday night. So as coaches, myself being at the top of this list, just feeling the momentum and feeling the vibe of the game, and making sure to appropriately communicate to my coordinators, what I would like to see, and then that trickle on down to the players, so that we're all synced up and making sure that we're making the best decisions, best calls, and best plays all at the right time.
And then what have you seen so far offensively in terms of your explosive plays, something you guys have been able to do the last few years, just have these guys that can hit the big play when they need to? Who's stepped up in that department?
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's a different looking Milton offense. A lot of the explosiveness is going to come, from running backs making incredible runs. We have an offensive line that's doing a good job right now. Tight ends blocking their butt off, and a couple good backs that we're rolling in. And then receivers, whenever they're getting a chance to get the ball, they're making the plays downfield, and able to use the play action game a little bit more, just because we are running the ball with pretty good success at the time. So the explosiveness is coming from all people. E.B. Bailey has made some big time explosive plays for us as of late. Jordan Carasquillo has made some really, really good catches. And like I said, our backs have been doing a good job of just getting vertical and breaking some big time runs and shedding some tackles when we need them to.
Thank you so much for joining us, Coach Reaves, and best of luck the rest of your season.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
And coming up after the break, we're going to get to some volleyball rankings. We're trying to switch it up, talk some other sports as well. And then we'll hear from another high school football coach later on the show. We'll be back right after the break. Earlier in the show, we were talking about Pace Academy volleyball and how impressive they've been this season, but we want to share the love and go through all the classifications for volleyball and talk about how things have changed so far this season. So looking at Class 6A, Craig, this top three is brutal. You have Walton, Alpharetta, Buford, all really competitive. How do you expect to maybe see this top three change throughout the season?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. You look at Walton. They're number 35 nationally right now. Walton has more state championships in volleyball than any other program. I think this is probably the longest stretch that they haven't won a state title, about 3 years. They have a new coach this year with Ashley Jones. They've had big wins already. They had the win over Pope, the outdoor game, 3-1. They took that one. But then Pope was able to bounce back and avenge that loss. So this is Walton's first loss of the season, 8-1. It was a familiar opponent. In that game, though, this was Jahan Lally is her name. She's a senior. She had 27 assists. So in that game, that was her career high. It looks like they adjusted. They moved the offense through her and were able to find some weaknesses in Walton's attack. But I feel like they will be able to bounce back. I didn't bump them down because they have beaten Pope, so it's kind of just a draw at this point, but we'll see once they get into the region. North Cobb is always a tough matchup. Alpharetta, they've won 9 straight since their loss to Cartersville. And then Buford, they're also ranked nationally, so you have Walton at 35, Alpharetta at 24, and then Buford at 27. And then Buford is 11-1. Their only loss, I believe, was to Brentwood out of state, so a Tennessee school. So they are still perfect within the state.
Speaking of Pope, going now to Class 5A, these Pope and Walton are teams that we've seen earlier on this season, and they've avenged that loss. They beat Walton now 2-0. Woodward Academy is undefeated, but you felt confident after seeing this Pope and Walton matchup to put Pope at number 1.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's really tough. Woodward Academy is 11-0 right now. I feel like they have a strong case to potentially be number 1, but seeing Pope avenge that loss and just the fact that that game was outdoors, I mean, they aren't going to be playing any more matches like that. I feel like Pope has gotten better as the season has progressed, but Woodward Academy, they haven't played quite as tough as a schedule, but they're still perfect, haven't dropped a set. And then you look at the rest of Class 5A, who else is going to be a contender? Jackson County has been on a really hot streak. They're moving up into the top 5. You have McIntosh, they just had a couple huge wins. Milton's a team that's still about 500, but it looks like they can beat anyone, but they can also lose some matches to some non-ranked opponents. Milton's a very athletic team. They haven't typically been a powerhouse in the sport of volleyball, but when you look at the schools around them in that North Fulton area with Alpharetta, they're starting to get some of those big high-end prospects, and they're a team that I don't think this is the year they're going to break through just with so much talent at the top of this class, but Milton certainly is an interesting team.
And moving to Class 4A, Pace Academy is a team that we've been talking about a lot today, and we're going to give them some more love because they're number 1. This is a new number 1 in Class 4A, and rightfully so. No team has yet to win a match against them. They're going to be traveling to play some Florida teams on Friday. Real tough matchups early on, and they've proved to remain dominant.
Yeah, so they had a late start to their season, but as we said, they couldn't have gotten off to a better start. Just absolute domination. These are sets that they're winning 25-14, just really distancing themselves. And then Cartersville, they were number 1, but they've actually just lost a few matches after their big ones over Alpharetta and Pope. That was enough to put Cartersville number 1, but they've lost to Mount Perrin. They dropped a 2-1 loss to Blessed Trinity on the road. They played a lot of out-of-state games, and then they just lost to Lovett. So about 3 losses in their last 5 matches. So that was enough with Pace Academy's undefeated start to switch the places, but I still really like Cartersville to potentially challenge them. Westminster has been red hot so far, and then Central Carrollton is a team that has gotten into the rankings. They replaced Kell this last week at number 10. I'm looking forward to seeing what they continue to do.
And moving on to Class 3A, Craig, when you look at this list of 10 schools, which one jumps out at you as one that people should keep an eye on?
I think it's Calhoun. Calhoun broke through last season and had probably the best season they've ever had in the sport of volleyball. But Oconee County, I put them number 1 last week. They're going to play in this really tough region with number 3 Jefferson. You got number 8 Cherokee Bluff. But they have been able so far to continue to win, handle those big top 10 matches, get the signature victories, but also beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. It will be interesting when they get into those rivalry matches. Usually those teams will cancel each other out, but to me, it's Oconee County and Jefferson, the top 2 teams out of their region, and then Calhoun, who I think has a championship lineup.
And looking at Class 2A, Morgan County still staying at that number 1 spot this week, but Hart County moving up. What impressed you the most to make you confident that you could move Hart up to number 2?
Yes, Hart County was such a young team last year, and I put them in the top 10 when they were like 8 games below 500. They ended up having a pretty solid late part of the season, but this year, a similar schedule. They're just playing so much better, and I feel like returning all that experience from last year that was a super young team, that makes them a little more dangerous. Morgan County was the clear favorite all throughout last season. They've been holding on to number 1, but we're starting to see Hart County challenge that. Columbus, they've been testing themselves with a very tough overall schedule. They're probably like 3 games above 500 at this point. So I feel like they're going to be battle tested. Savannah Arts is one of the best teams outside of Metro Atlanta, but Hart County to me is the hottest team in Class 2A.
We're going to breeze over Class 1A Elite Scholars Academy, staying in that number 1 spot, moving down to private. Lovett is that strong number 1 team, right? They've been in that number 1 spot for the 3rd week now. What makes this such a strong Lovett program?
Well, they beat Cartersville, and that was the team that I was very impressed with the wins over Pope and Alpharetta. For Lovett to beat them with this young team shows that they really have what it takes to take the private division. And then Holy Innocents was number 3. They took a pretty significant tumble this week in the polls, down from 3 to 7. They've had a tough stretch. We'll see how they respond. They started the season 4-0. They've lost 5 of their last 6. Very tough opponents. But that is a cause for concern. But I really like Lovett at number 1. This is the 3rd week in a row they've been holding on, and having a big win like they just did over Cartersville validates that status. I also like North Cobb Christian. They moved into the poll this week. GAC also has been holding on to its spot, but I want to see how Holy Innocents responds after this tough stretch.
Coming up after the break, we'll have head coach Ed Dudley joining us from Blessed Trinity. Don't go far. We'll be right back after the short break.
Customer service is everything in our industry, and one thing our clients love is when they call Breda, they get a live representative. At Breda, you get the attention you need and deserve right when you call in. Your appointment gets scheduled right then and there, and you get a specific time, no window of arrival. Our staff are your neighbors. They know what's going on in your community, and they're invested in doing it better.
Breda, Breda, no need to be afraid of bugs.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
A journeyman with Local 85, when you turn out, you can be hitting 6 figures.
Hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're gonna do this together. We're one for all for one.
College just wasn't for me. Let's look into actual career jobs that wouldn't take college, where I wouldn't, lose money and all that. Instead of losing a lot more money at the end, why not make money and make more money at the end?
What happens after you graduate? Will you go to the next level? Will people have your back in the heat of battle? Will you still train like a champion in the pursuit of greatness? You will, when you become an IBEW electrical worker. Join our team. Visit IBEW613.org.
Welcome back to the Georgia High School Sports Daily. Our next guest is going to be Ed Dudley, head coach of Blessed Trinity. Is one of the legendary coaches in the state of Georgia. I was fortunate enough to play for him at Walton. I knew he was a great coach, but it's pretty amazing just seeing how much respect he has around the state. IJ was talking about how gracious he was that BT was able to pick up a game this year when we had a scheduling conflict in the Corky Kell. And what I've been impressed by is just this start for BT. First game of the season, just a blowout win, but then going up against Holy Innocents this last week. This is a team that returned pretty much all of its offense, still young and up and coming, but the way that BT was able to shut them down, I think they didn't allow them to cross midfield until the second half. They forced a running clock, and we're starting to see that when you look at Class 4A, BT has it in all three phases, a lot of new pieces this year, but he really has this program rolling in the right direction.
Craig, you were able to play under Coach Dudley when he was at Walton. What was the number one thing that he felt like that he taught you that you still carry with you today?
I just think he understands what high school football is about. It's not just about teaching the fundamentals of football. He wants to form that bond with you, that relationship, but also on a personal level, just understand your growth. And I don't think there's anyone that played under him that didn't walk away with an appreciation that he was your head coach.
We're still trying to get Dudley on the Zoom to join us here today on the show. But when you look at, you were talking about some of their earlier games and what's impressed you so far, but they're going to be going up against Prince Avenue Christian on Friday. That's a really tough matchup. What do you hope to see out of this game?
Well, to me, I think BT's biggest strength is when they can control the ball offensively, and they have such a great defense that's able to stop the run very well. Very few teams are able to get anything going on the ground. And then once BT is able to have a lead and get things going offensively, it gives their defense rest, and then they're going to come after you and be very disruptive. I feel like that's what they've been able to do so far, is just overwhelm these teams where once they try to get something going, BT's already clicking on full cylinders. And that is a result of them starting a lot of these big players like DJ Jacobs as underclassmen. They're coming into their own, and then they have some more talent in the secondary. They've been able to produce a lot of turnovers. I just feel like the team understands through the preparation what the opponents are going to do, and they're very well prepared. What's interesting is we just had Milton on the show. Milton's home opener is going to be against BT. They played for the first time ever last season, and that was actually probably the closest anyone came to Milton last year. Yes, Hughes was really close to Milton in the state championship. I think it was tied at the half, and then Milton pulled away, but BT played Milton very well last season.
And joining us now is Coach Dudley. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
When you look at your coaching career as a whole, is there one moment or a few moments that stand out as some of your favorites?
Yeah, I think getting to coach Craig Sager, his game against Harrison, epic. One of my favorite people in the whole world. No, it's been a long and very productive career. Very, very fortunate and blessed, to use that overused word, to have worked with so many great players along and along.
And you talked about working with so many great players. You teach them a lot throughout the years, but what's something that they've taught you the most?
You know, it's been the family thing, the fact that they support me even when I make a mistake or goof up or lose my temper with them. They always take you back, and I think that's been the best part of it. A lot of lessons in football, but for me, learning that one, that my players and teams have always accepted me, has been really good.
And then, Coach Dudley, in this last matchup against Holy Innocents, you talked about the importance of caging up their quarterback. They have some big targets. I think it's Khalid Worthy, their big tight end. What did you just see from the defense being able to understand the assignment and just hold in check a really explosive offense like you guys did?
Well, we have a very mature defense, and I was just commenting to someone this morning. We had to replace 6 starters, or that's not true, 5 starters in the front 7, but they were indoctrinated into the way we play and to some of the terminology like caging up the quarterback. You probably remember that from high school. And we were able to execute at a very high level against a good team. And, you know, for us, I think if you look at our schedule, we got to do that every Friday night. It's just a gauntlet, really. And this week with Prince Avenue, no different.
And then I saw the 8th grade team was able to beat Milton a couple weeks ago. You guys will be playing them coming up. You guys squared off with them the first time ever last season. Talk about just scheduling some of these tough opponents at BT and what that game's going to be like.
Well, they probably should have fired me for putting that schedule. We really didn't have a lot of choice. We only got 4 region games from our state schedule, so we had to go out and pick up a lot of games. The Milton game is a bit of a stretch for us, but our guys went out there last year and competed with them, gave them all we had, and I think that's all you can ask of a team. And this year we're looking forward to just kind of testing ourselves. We got a big one to worry about this week in Prince Avenue. They're number 1 in A to AAA private, and they're about all we can handle right now.
And when you're talking about that Prince Avenue Christian team, their quarterback, Ben Musser, is a true dual threat quarterback. What are some keys to trying to neutralize him or disrupt him at quarterback?
You know, I think maintaining rush lanes and rush lane discipline is going to be really big. We definitely need to have one of our inside backers spying him at all times. He is truly a great dual threat quarterback and got great wheels. And, you know, he really broke open that first game against Callaway and then made big plays this past week. He's a dynamite player, but then they have other guys too. The tailback is considered to be one of the tops in America, and their 2 tight ends and their wideouts are great players. So, you know, it's just a heck of a matchup for us.
And when your team continues to be battle tested through these really tough opponents, where do you hope to see this team before region play?
I think we'll be battle hardened by the time region play comes around. We've got a few injuries we've got to work through right now. It's helping build depth for the long haul, but in the short term, it's kind of painful. And I just feel like by the time we get into the region schedule, we'll be ready to go. And our region is really the SEC West of 4A football. We've got tremendous teams, and so we have to play these teams to get ready.
Yeah, and speak a little bit more about that. Teams like Kell, Cambridge, Westminster, Centennial. What did last year teach you just about this region, and how's that help just sharpen the focus in these non-region games, knowing that you guys are going to have to go up against such top competition?
You know, I think that's really why we designed a lot of these games early on. You play a great team like Kell. Kell's as talented as anybody. You got the weapons up at Cambridge. You know, Westminster has a new coach, and they're playing dynamite football right now. Centennial's always tough. You have to get prepared for that, and that's just it's a hard thing. We've changed kind of how we practice and prepare a little bit because these games are so hard on Friday night. We take it a little bit easier on Monday and kind of roll into the week like that. But it's a big challenge. But I think just watching the way our defense plays, seeing our offense continue to step up and get better, I think we'll be ready for it when it comes around.
And then offensively, we've seen a lot of guys getting involved in the backfield. I want to ask you about Andrew Cochran. BT won the state championship in baseball this year. One of the fastest players we've seen, clocking in the 4.3s and the 40. What's his impact going to be this season?
Well, you know, this will be his first game back. He had a bad hamstring from summer baseball, and he's just now getting back to being 100%. So I think he's going to be our deep threat. I think he's going to be the guy that takes the top off. We haven't had him in the scrimmages or the first 2 games, but we'll have him Friday night, and, you know, keep an eye on him. Look for him going deep early and often. He's a tremendous player, great speed. Shame he got hurt in the North Oconee game. That might have helped us a little bit. They beat us pretty solidly, but he's a dynamite player and just really exciting, and just a sophomore.
And then real quick, he reminds me of a Billy Burns type guy. Great at baseball, just so fast. Is that an apt comparison?
I think it's a very good comparison, and even in his character, he reminds me of Billy a lot. Just a tremendous kid, a tremendous athlete, and love his spirit. He's always just wanting to compete and play games. He's ready to go.
Thanks for joining us today, Coach Dudley. We're looking forward to that Blessed Trinity Prince Avenue Christian matchup this Friday.
Be a good one.
All right, and we want to give a quick shout out to, on Instagram, DT_photography28 for the photos you saw today while we were talking to Coach. We'll be back right after the break, and we'll wrap up talking about some teams that have scored a lot of points so far this season. Welcome back into Georgia High School Sports Daily. We've saved the best for last because we have Hayden joining us now, and we're going to take a look at some teams that have scored a lot of points so far this season. When you take a look at the most amount of points scored, it doesn't seem like it's a football game, right? Temple, 66 points. On your screen now, you're seeing a lot of high numbers. If you would just take a glance, Hayden, I don't think you would think this is a football game.
No, it's close to basketball. Like in high school basketball, especially, like 66 points would be respectable in high school basketball. Like 40 points a game is not unheard of for teams that are really good basketball teams, but 66 points for football. That's kind of ridiculous.
And when you look at this Temple team, 66 points, they're firing on all cylinders when it comes to that offensive performance. What's making them tick?
I think it's just the evolution of this program. Last year they took a step forward. They've continued to take step forwards year after year, and now I think it's just clicking together. They're senior laden. Everything about this team is clicking. The amazing thing about them scoring over 60 points last week is they shut out their opponent. So it wasn't like, oh, we're in this. It wasn't the Noonan East Cowee where it's like, oh, we have to score 66 points. I'm pretty sure the backups were at points, but they were still able to put up those points.
Yeah, and that was with the running clock in the second half and the fourth quarter. They have a big matchup against Tryon, but this is Class A Division I, so these games matter even outside of the region for the playoff rating system. It's a great start, but this is a big test for them coming up. They just got to keep this offense rolling.
And coming in at third is that Noonan team with 57 points. Craig, you were talking about them earlier. What do you like about this Noonan program? I
really like Brody Campbell, and I talked a little bit about just the success they have as a baseball program, winning the state title. That's what their offense looks like. It looks like they're turning double plays. The ball is flying all over the field. 45 pass attempts in the last game. They are not afraid to air it out. It's very exciting to watch. They're getting everyone involved, and they have a true gunslinger at quarterback. And Hayden, when you look at the rest of this list, who are some other teams that jump out at you?
I've been impressed with Thomas County Central since before the season. This is a team that, we got to see the pictures of what's going to be their indoor facility. They're only 2 years removed for state title. They have a third or fourth year starting quarterback. They have I think 3 D1 wide receivers. This 56 points a game is not shocking in the sense of they definitely could do it. It's just shocking that they are putting up these numbers against good teams. I had Cairo that they beat last week ranked in my 3A rankings.
To me, Thomas County Central just has so much speed offensively. It's unbelievable. They just run track meets on programs. In the past, they'd always have speedy guys in the backfield, but as Hayden said, they got so many quick receivers. They can just get the ball out in space. The screens, the slants, the deep ball, they have everything going, and definitely a team that has the offense to get it done this year. If you're a head coach of an opposing team going up against one of these teams on your list, what's your plan to try and neutralize this offense?
I think to some extent it's try to keep up. 2, try to keep it on the ground, try to slow down the game. And then just get pressure on the quarterback and make mistakes. Because most of these teams are scoring through the air because to score this many points, you kind of have to. And high school quarterbacks don't normally do well with pressure. No matter, even the best ones, when you put a guy in his face, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to turn the ball over. They're going to throw incompletions, which is how you win games like that.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be a team that knows how to control the ball. That's what Milton has done such a great job of over the last few years. When they're playing opponents that have high-powered offense, they're going to try to run the ball. I feel like that's what they did to Walton in the state championship game, to be able to control the time of possession. You have to be able to sustain drives. You don't want to just keep trading punches because one thing can go against you, and then you're giving them a free possession. So holding onto the ball, controlling the clock, that's your best defense.
As teams begin to enter region play, we'll expect to see these numbers obviously go down. But who are some teams on this list that you'd expect to still have a high-powering offense?
I think Cambridge. Cambridge, even though they're breaking in a new quarterback, they have 2 really good wide receivers, another really good tight end, all committed to D1 schools. You're just looking at a group of players that when you have that many weapons, especially at a bit smaller 4A level, it's hard to stop. They're going to put up points. The real question for them is on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think Hayden said it with Cambridge. What Craig Dandridge is able to do, he's going to get 10 targets pretty much every game. He's going to be over 100 yards. He's a touchdown machine, but that's just one aspect of their explosive offense. Coach Tyler Jones has done a great job. We saw it last year. I think a team that is going to be toe-to-toe with them, though, is Kell. That's a team that isn't on the list. They're probably a little below Harrison, but they've averaged over 40 points per game every single season with Coach May, a very explosive offense. I wouldn't be surprised if Cambridge and Kell are both above 40 points per game by the end of the year.
And earlier last week, we talked to Thomas County Central's head coach about their indoor facility that they're doing. When you have teams pouring into programs and doing stuff like having indoor facilities, how do you think that'll help them moving forward?
I think it puts you in a controlled environment where a lot of times this summer's been extremely wet. You don't get the time, especially for your passing game, to kind of get that polished if you're having to play outdoors. When you're inside, it's controlled. You're making the plays that you need to. Now, I think there's a place for, hey, we need to be outside. We need to practice in the rain because we're going to have to play in the rain at least 2 or 3 times a year. But especially early on, it allows you to install your offense in a controlled environment that allows you to be perfect.
Yeah, and it helps you prepare for games like a college program.
Exactly. I was just about to say, Craig, you took the words right out of my mouth. Nowadays, it's these colleges, it's looking like small community colleges or colleges across these high school football programs. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Georgia High School Sports Daily. We'll see you tomorrow morning.